You can give her good feedback.
I will.
In the community.
Again, I am Shelley Colvin, President of the League of Women Voters of St. Louis Park. I would like to welcome you to the Candidate Forum for School Board in St. Louis Park. Our District 283 covers the city. Thank you to our candidates for participating, and thank you to our audience, both those attending in person and viewing online. We would also like to acknowledge the City of St. Louis Park for providing this wonderful venue and ParkTV for their excellent coverage of our voter forums. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization and does not support or oppose political parties or candidates for office. The League has a long-standing history in our community of providing unbiased candidate and issue information that is widely used by Minnesota voters, regardless of their political beliefs. There's never enough time to cover all the issues or ask all of the questions. And so be aware of that. We get a lot of questions. We're going to answer all we can. If you feel, though, that your question was not addressed, please contact the candidate directly. Moderators for candidate forums must undergo special statewide League of Women Voters training and must be from outside the jurisdiction of the office covered by the forum. We are happy to welcome back Jackie Wells, a certified moderator from the Golden Valley League of Women Voters, who will moderate our forum tonight. Thank you and welcome, Jackie.
Thank you, Shelley. Appreciate
it.
All right, good evening, everyone. Tonight's forum will last for approximately 90 minutes. Each candidate will be given 1.5 minutes for their opening statement, and the opening statements are going to be in alpha order by last name. We will then use a randomized schedule to rotate the questions amongst the candidates. Candidates will have 1 minute to respond to the questions and for their closing statements. The choice of questions will be made by me in a good faith effort to reflect the interests expressed by the audience. Please remember that while respectful disagreement with a candidate's position is fine, personal attacks are not allowed. A person's public record may be examined, but not their character. If your questions were not answered, as Shelley said, you can talk with the candidates afterwards. We ask there be no demonstrations in support or opposition to the candidates or their positions, and that candidates be allowed their entire time to get their point across. The candidates for the 3 seats on the St. Louis Park School Board, District 283 are Patrick Baldwin, Sarah Davis, Deb Deutsch, Susie Kaufman, Shanna Kelly, Missy Morgan, Mally Turnbull, and Maida Webb. Please join me in welcoming them. Thank you. Deb in the front row is our timekeeper, and she will hold up for our candidates a 30-second sign and then a 15-second sign. And she also has a stop sign, and we'll call time to make sure each candidate has equal time for their responses. I, as the moderator, may choose to have some short answer questions, and if that happens, I'll direct the candidates and the timer accordingly. We hope to receive many questions from you folks in the audience here. Please direct your questions to all candidates. Questions that are unclear, hostile, or of a personal nature will not be asked. And those that fall into the same general topic area may be consolidated to allow us to cover as many topics as possible. We also collected questions in advance that were submitted to the St. Louis Park League's website. So let's begin with our opening statements, and the first person to respond is Patrick Baldwin.
Thank you. My name is Patrick Baldwin. My wife Adrienne and I chose St. Louis Park. We moved here in 2014 specifically for the schools. Common story, right? We live in the Elliott neighborhood. We have 2 kids in the district. They went to Peter Hobart. Elvis is in 6th grade at the middle school now, and Paulie is in 10th grade at the high school. It goes really quickly. They've had great experiences at all 3 of those schools. Or if you count early learning, which we do, because I think we're going to talk about more than K-12 education here tonight. I want those experiences for every family, and that's why I'm running. But just because my family has had these great experiences doesn't mean I think everything is and has been great. In fact, I think we're going to have to make a lot of really hard decisions in the next few years, and I want to be a part of that. Here's why I think I'll be good at it. I have the personal and professional background to do really well at it. I grew up in the public schools. I went to high school in North St. Paul here. My parents were public school teachers in Fridley and in Cottage Grove. In fact, my dad was a school board member in North St. Paul. So I know what this is all about and how we serve. I used to run the Civil Law Committee in the Minnesota House of Representatives for the DFL caucus, so I understand state policy as well. I'm a recovering attorney, so I currently work as a geospatial data consultant, where I listen to my clients and help them solve their problems with objective measurement, which is a skill I think we need on the board as well. I don't want to forget to thank the League for having us here. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Davis, please.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Davis, and I am a proud mom, wife, lawyer, advocate, and a current school board member here in St. Louis Park. I love this community and our schools. I'm running for re-election because I believe that in this moment, we must stand against the unprecedented attacks that our schools are facing from a federal administration that seeks to undermine public education, equity, and inclusion. This is personal for our St. Louis Park community and for my queer multiracial family. My wife and I similarly chose St. Louis Park and chose this community because of the community's commitment to equity and inclusion and our excellent schools that embody these values. As these core values come under attack, we need courageous, experienced leadership. I'm ready to meet this moment. My 18-year career as a public service lawyer advocating for children and families has proven invaluable during my time as a school board member, particularly as chair of our policy committee. I take the time to deeply engage on all issues that come before the board and ask informed questions, because I know that the policy and budget decisions that we make have real-life impacts on students, staff, and families. I am deeply connected to our community and schools as a parent, neighbor, volunteer, and leader. It is an incredible honor to serve on the school board, and I hope to earn your vote to continue this important work. Thank you.
Thank you. Deb Deutsch, please.
I'm Deb Deutsch, and I want to first thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this forum, and to all my fellow participants for stepping up to the plate, for showing your civic duty. I am a 30-year resident of St. Louis Park, actually 40 of the Twin Cities, and I have 4 daughters who graduated from St. Louis Park Senior High and currently have 2 grandchildren in the St. Louis Park public school system. I was very pleased with the education my girls got here, and I want to see those academic standards maintained, those high academic standards maintained. In 2024, our reading, math, and science scores were slightly above the state average, which were all below 50%. I know we can do better. We need to do better. Our students need to have the basic skills that will support them to think analytically and navigate the world around them, especially with the advent of AI. I want to help our students to be engaged adults and citizens who are prepared to enter the workforce. Thank you.
Thank you. Susie Kaufman, please.
Thank you. First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this event and to my fellow candidates for being here tonight. I am here tonight as a parent, as an educator, and a gun violence prevention advocate. I have 2 daughters who attend school in the district, and like every parent and caregiver, I want them to get the very best education, to have positive experiences with school, and to feel safe and to be secure in their classrooms. My kids have wonderful teachers, and I want them to be supported. They need to have the training, support, and professional development to meet the needs of each student in their classroom. For 13 years, I taught students with learning differences. These students deserve to have their academic and social emotional needs met in our schools through extra support and intervention where needed. At the same time, teachers must have the training to raise standards for all students and to push students who are ready for more academic challenges. We must also improve communication at all levels so that all stakeholders understand what policies are being enacted and why. And I know what is top of mind for many families in our community right now: every student must be safe in school. As the state leader for Moms Demand Action over the past 2 years and an active volunteer for several years before that, I have worked at the Capitol to advocate for and pass background checks on all gun sales and red flag laws. I have educated community members about safe gun storage through Everytown's Be Smart program, and I have the experience to bring this training to St. Louis Park. I'm really glad to be here tonight, and I look forward to sharing more about what I can bring to the St. Louis Park School Board. Thanks.
Thank you. Shanna Kelly, please.
Hi, I'm Shanna Kelly. I am a dedicated parent of 3 children in the district. I'm very active in the district. I have been on the PTO, the Early Learning Advisory Council, and also the DPAC, the District Instructional Programs Council. We also moved to St. Louis Park because my husband graduated from the schools here and had nothing but good things to say.
Thank you. Missy Morgan.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Missy Morgan. I'm really happy to be here tonight running for the St. Louis Park School Board. My son actually just started at Peter Hobart as a kindergartner in the fall. I'm just getting over being a mess about that. I'm sure if you have kids, you can relate. And like everyone in this room, I want every child in this district to have the best possible start in life. I began my career in special education in Shakopee Public Schools in Setting 3 EBD, and then I transitioned to Minneapolis Public Schools to help create a behavior intervention system to cut down on the school-to-prison pipeline and to focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we were quite successful. This helped reduce school avoidance. Later on, Minnetonka Public Schools hired me to come in and develop their student climate program. I was based out of their West Middle School, which was amazing. I don't know if you've ever been around 1,400 middle schoolers at any given day, but it's a certain kind of energy and a good humor. I also had 183 staff that were mine, and I advised on board goals for the Minnetonka Public Schools. After that, I worked for the state through a nonprofit to develop a program for residents of Hennepin County to help support stabilized housing. I also worked for the state of Minnesota I was supervisor of guardian ad litem for the 4th Judicial District and oversaw 175 child protection cases at any given point that were in our judicial system. I currently work for the 10th Judicial District, overseeing family, juvenile, and child protection court. I'm really passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion and ensuring our teachers have support. So thank you for having me here today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mally Turnbull, please.
Thank you. I want to start by thanking one of our current board members and a couple of outgoing board members for their service to the district, the league for hosting this event, this wonderful event this evening, the candidates, and also everybody who is here in attendance in person, watching virtually, or watching on tape delay. My name is Mally Turnbull, and I am an adoptee, a naturalized citizen, and a proud person of color and Indian American. I'm a graduate of public education, growing up here in the Twin Cities. I am equally important, and almost more so first, I am a husband and father. My wife and I moved to St. Louis Park almost 10 years ago. We moved here for the community, and we stay here because when I think of St. Louis Park, I think of family. And in the recent, we have had the opportunity to meet so many wonderful and amazing people. What I bring and what I do professionally, I have spent my entire professional career advocating for the rights of children with disabilities. I have served as a paraprofessional, special education teacher, and currently a special education supervisor where I supervise special ed programming for a neighboring school district. I bring experience. I'm in schools every single day, and I have 2 advanced degrees in the field, and I am proud to support students with disabilities. I support the mission and vision of St. Louis Park Public Schools.
Thank you. Maida Webb.
Well, good evening. My name is Maida Webb, and I'm honored to be here tonight as a candidate for school board. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event and to everyone who's tuned in. I've been a resident of St. Louis Park, and I'm the proud parent of 2 children in the St. Louis Park schools. I'm a passionate advocate for our schools and our community, and I've built a reputation for showing up and taking action. Whether inside the classroom, at site-level leadership, or district initiatives, including the Learning and Design team, where we closely evaluated the needs of our aging facilities, the Vote Yes Committee, where we prepared for the 2017 bond referendum, DPAC, looking at instruction and curriculum, as well as the Finance Advisory Committee. I've supported programs at Lennox with our 55+ community, and I'm a longtime volunteer at Sept, to help ensure that students have access to school supplies, clothing, and food. These experiences have earned me the trust of our staff members, our families, and our students, and given me a front row seat into our district's many wins, as well as areas where we can continue to improve. I'm so incredibly proud of this community, and I know that strong schools equal strong community. Sure, my kids have been embarrassed a time or two because of my involvement, especially when I spoke up publicly about a cell phone policy at the middle school. But I promise if I'm elected to the school board that I will continue to show up because I believe showing up matters. I'll double down on my commitment to remaining curious, seeking to understand through listening, connecting, and taking action for the benefit of all of our students and our entire community. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'll be asking questions submitted both by the audience here and the folks who sent in questions in advance on the league's website. And the first person to respond will be Maida. And our question is, school safety is a top concern for families, and gun safety is often part of that conversation. What do you see as the school board's role in creating the school board's role in creating and supporting safe learning environments? What approaches or partnerships with parents, local law enforcement, and mental health providers do you believe are most effective in promoting both security and student well-being? And again, it's Maida Webb for the first response.
Thank you very much. Obviously, this is a topic that is top of mind for everybody right now in our community, and I think it's of the utmost importance that we address it from a school board, not only from a policy position, but also that will come up with finances as well, because I do believe that we need to make sure that we're funding the programs that get at the heart of the whole child. And so those programs that address social and emotional well-being of our students, I think are of utmost importance. I know another topic that has been of conversation is our peace officers in the schools, and I believe that there is a strong partnership that can happen between schools and community to keep our children safe.
Thank you. Next is Patrick Baldwin.
Thank you. So when I think about school safety, I mean, we're not just talking about safety from guns, are we? I think if a child needs to feel safe in school, and they need to feel safe to be their authentic selves. And I think when every child has that support, we're going to prevent a lot of these problems that we're worried about. I think the board's role in partnering with agencies is we need to vet who we're dealing with. We need to see what works at the national and state level. And we need to talk about safety all the time in all of its aspects. Thank you.
Thank you. Mally Turnbull.
I see the board's role as multifaceted in supporting safety. Similar to Patrick, safety looks differently. Safety means students feeling welcomed, included, and belonged. Also, of course, that we have safety measures to ensure people have passed background checks and been fully vetted to enter our buildings. Critical role of the school board is to advocate legislatively for finances, mental health supports, and resources for children, co-located services. Also working to ensure that we have policies enacted that our administrators can partner with our families and students and communities to enact procedures to ensure that our students remain safe.
Thank you. Deb Deutsch.
Well, safety it's true. It's not just guns. It's feeling safe in the hallways of your school. And I felt very good. I spoke to Sergeant Blomsness of the St. Louis Park Police, and they're doing a wonderful job working with the St. Louis Park schools to provide the safety resource officers that are needed. And currently, they cannot be in the school because there's no contract yet. So once there's a contract, they can be back inside the school. Right now, they're outside the school. So thank you.
Thank you. Missy Morgan.
As someone who has built a student climate program for a very large school district, safety is something that I focus on directly. I work directly with families who are in crisis within the school, and I know how critical mental health supports is within our school for student success and for family success. We need strong partnerships with community providers and different stakeholders to support the safety within the schools and outside of schools. But also the day-to-day resources in our schools need to reflect that. So counselors, social workers, trainings for staff so that they can recognize and respond to student needs early. Those early interventions make all the difference. Belonging for students is key. Students learn best when they feel safe, valued, and connected. On the board, I would advocate for resources and practices that put student and staff well-being at the center. And I have done that, and it has been successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Davis.
Thank you. I just want to start by acknowledging the critical importance of school safety. It is one of the most important things that we do in our schools is to keep our students, but also our staff and the family members who are in our buildings safe. And it's really a multifaceted approach that has to be undertaken here. So we have to make sure that our buildings are safe, that they have the infrastructure, that we have cameras that are functioning, that doors that are safe. But we also have to make sure, as my other candidates up here have talked about, that we are taking care of folks from a social emotional perspective, because we know that when students and staff are well and safe, that our schools are safe places for them to be. And so this impacts, we've addressed this on the board, on the policy committee, looking at the violence prevention project and at what is most effective for keeping schools safe. And, in my job at the Hennepin County's Attorney's Office, this is something that I deal with on a daily basis. So I would invite further conversation at any point. Thank you.
Thank you. Shanna Kelly.
Yes, I think we need to continue to build a safe community. We need to have those relationships, whether it be having events at the school, and we need to have more counselors, social work. I'm concerned about losing mental health funding, and I think there's a lot of work to be done yet.
Thank you. Susie Kaufman.
Thank you. So this is obviously an area where I could talk for a lot more than a minute, so please, I invite conversation afterwards. So one thing I would suggest is that the school board take on the Be Smart program. It's a free, nonpartisan program that teaches about safe gun storage. The idea is that it is not children's responsibility to stay away from guns. It's adults' responsibility to keep children away from the guns, to keep the guns locked up. And that's critically important because most school shooters are getting their guns from their homes. And additionally, as we were talking about, it's really important for students to feel like they are connected to one adult. So as opposed to being constantly reactive to shootings, we really need to be proactive. We need every student to feel like they have one trusted adult that they can talk to, and that adult can feel like they can notice a change in behavior in case of something alarming that is coming up with children. Additionally, most school shooters leak their intentions ahead of time, and so we really need students to have some clear reporting where they can share information with a trusted adult so that they don't get their peers in trouble, but they are able to work to keep people safe. So please talk to me more after on this.
Thank you. And you will be first to answer our next question, and that is, the role of a school board member is complicated. How will you advocate for the needs of all students and staff with the complicated budget constraints?
Thank you. So obviously we are in a situation where the reality is that we are likely facing budget cuts. So I believe that it's most important that we're preserving programs where students are directly impacted. So I would call those like student-facing programs. We can't cut staff for our most vulnerable students. We especially need to be serving our special ed students. They really need to be able to have enough intervention to get them to the next level. We also, I think, can lean into our very strong community of volunteers and think outside the box about how to continue to provide necessary services for students. I think there are a lot of innovative things that we can do if we put our mind to it. We obviously have a room full of interested people here and a lot of people online. I would also say that I have a lot of experience advocating at the Capitol, and I look forward to using those skills to advocate for as much money as we can get for our schools.
Thank you. Shanna Kelly.
Yes, I think we have to be prepared for what's to come with the current administration, the threats to shutting down the Department of Education. And I'm concerned about losing special education funding. Specifically, I have 3 kids that are in special education, and it is so important.
Thank you. Missy Morgan.
When resources are limited, I believe we should protect the classroom first. Supporting teachers, maintaining manageable class sizes, and ensuring students have access to programs that keep them engaged for academics or the arts or the athletics is important. I worked in the county, the court systems, the school systems where budget cuts are actually the norm, right? So when I've been part of those meetings as to what do we do about that, I've learned the importance of using data and listening to stakeholders before making those cuts. On the board, I would focus on transparency, equity, and protecting programs that are most critical to student success, as student success and partnerships with our families within the community is what makes our school system strong, even when we are experiencing budget cuts. I can speak to this because this is actually something I have also done and worked with in many different settings, from nonprofits to the judicial system to the school setting. Thank you.
Thank you. Mally Turnbull.
I think first, before we start to figure out what we need to cut, my question is, how can we generate and create revenue? So whether something I do in my job is we very much implement and support MA billing, which is a great way to create revenue for districts. And whether we want to admit it or not, we live in a time of vouchers and open enrollment. There's a recent article about this that probably many of you saw in the Star Tribune. And we have a number of students in the district who reside outside of our boundaries, and recruitment and retention of families and students who live outside of this, our district is an opportunity to create revenue. With the reality of many districts in cost containment or budget cuts, similar to what other candidates have said, we need to reduce the impact of the classroom and the resources of teachers. We need to continue to implement social emotional programs, have access to mental health services for kids. Similarly, we need to continue to advocate legislatively and look for community and private resources, grants, and other ways to generate revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Deb Deutsch.
I would first speak to the faculty, the administrators, and parents, and see what they want to see in the public school system and what they think can be cut, what can't be cut. Then I would take that information and then see if there will be cuts. It's inevitable. But then go to local businesses and see if they can donate things to the school, because these are the citizens of tomorrow. But most importantly, I worry that programs like art and music, I don't want to see those things cut, and extracurricular activities, because that fosters creativity and leadership, and those are important too. Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick Baldwin.
Thank you. So I think you start with taking recommendations for the people who are actually in the schools and the administration who know what all the programs are doing. We look to data for that. I like what Missy said about that. I have a little bit of experience with this doing project management, right, in complicated projects. You don't want to pit things against each other. What's working, what's not. It's not going to be easy to find $2-3 million, but I think, we want to keep anything we're cutting out of the classroom as far as we can. That seems like a no-brainer. But I also think that we need to look for ways that we can increase revenue. I know our state representatives here are very good on this issue, but the fact of the matter is there are representatives outside of St. Louis Park on one side of the aisle who aren't going to help get us more funding. And we need to be really aware of that. So, like I said, I would look in very detail at the budget, see where we can trim anything if possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Maida Webb.
Thank you. I spent 3 years on the Finance Advisory Committee, and I know just a snippet because it is so highly complex, but I did learn a lot during my time. on that committee, and I would say I would take a two-tier approach. The first one is looking, of course, at our budget and our expenditure side of things, and trying to draw direct correlation to student outcomes. And I mean student outcomes for all of our students to make sure that we're supporting everyone in the district. And then the other side of it is students equal revenue. And I know students are human bodies, and so I don't mean it like that, but students in our seats equal revenue. And so I would really work on firming up our St. Louis Park Schools brand to attract, retain, and recruit our resident students, which would be considered our capture rate, as many resident students as we can into our classrooms. Our teachers are at the heart of what we do. Of course, I would consider anything that does not have a direct impact to our classrooms, as well as boost our brand for revenue.
Thank you. Sarah Davis.
Thank you. As a current school board member, this is something that we have navigated over the last several years. It is complicated. It is difficult. These decisions are really hard. So a couple of things. One is we have to advocate legislatively. We have to collaborate with our legislative partners, and that is something I have done extensively. I have really strong relationships both with our local electeds and with others across the state. We have to listen to our staff, the Park Association of Teachers, to our students, to our families about where are the resources that we have to keep in place, and hear them. And then we need to protect our general fund. So the general fund is sort of the backdrop of all of this. We need to move costs out of that where we can, and we have done that. I have advocated for that on the board. And we need to increase enrollment, but we are doing that. And it's for the last several years, enrollment has been up, which is different than many of the districts around us, and we are on track to be up even more significantly this year. And so that is critical. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a slight pattern going. You will be first for our next question. The questioner writes to us, "It is vital to understand if students are progressing in their education as expected. With more students opting out of standardized testing, should the district implement alternatives to measure student progress? And if so, what measures might you suggest?"
Thank you for the question. I think that is something we have taken a hard look at. If folks have had a chance to watch the school board meetings, we have, and I have advocated for making sure that we're not just relying on standardized tests, and there's a lot of ways that we're measuring progress for our young people. And, you know, some of that is driven directly by the teachers. So we have staff who come and present to us about the ways that they are measuring outcomes. We do learning walks in the building so we can go around and see how folks are doing. And we are actively working to improve the communication home so that families and caretakers can truly understand where is their student at, where are they growing, and where is their needs for additional opportunities. So yes, it's true that there has been some opting out of standardized tests, but I think we are actually reversing that trend right now with a really significant focus on that in the secondary level. And we are implementing a variety of ways throughout all of our grade levels that we are measuring progress that are not just standardized tests, despite how important those are as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Maida Webb.
Yeah, thank you. I was very encouraged to see that St. Louis Park is really going all in on this MTSS approach, with multi-tier support system approach to look at ways that we can better support our students. I agree that standardized test scores are just, you know, a moment of time, and so I do think that we have to do testing early and often for students. And I think that the other part of this also goes to family engagement. I think as we engage our families and educate them on the importance of their students taking the tests, and then we also make sure that we pair that with what's going on school to the family to make sure that we get the buy-in there as well. I think those are two important things to look at.
Thank you. Patrick Baldwin.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is a hard one for me because I'm a data guy and I like to look at data. And if you don't have test scores and data, how do you know how kids are progressing? I think, one, you trust the teachers. We are supposed to be doing professional development to help kids move along, help teachers help kids move along. Yeah, and we don't want kids opting out. We want them to understand that there's good reasons to do this testing, and we want them to try hard at them too, which is another reason I'm understanding, as I understand it, there is a push toward, at least at the secondary level, replacing some of the MCA testing with ACT testing. There's a bit of an incentive for high school students to do well on the ACT, so that's the thing I'm curious about. So, you know, these touchy-feely things are a little harder for me than hard data. But as I understand it, the school district measures development in many ways for students, and I'm going to defer to teachers on a lot of that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mally Turnbull.
Yeah, I actually oversee the implementation of standardized testing for over 1,000 children with disabilities. I recognize that families have the right to opt out of testing annually, but I always challenge and offer the consideration that standardized test is one data set, but it is one day of testing, a snapshot of how the student may perform on that test on that day, but it is one way to track data and information on students longitudinally. If you talk to anybody who works in education now, it is incredible how much data exists. Maida talked about MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support. There are extensive data sets and frameworks existing in schools right now that are used to help teams make informed decisions on what type of interventions, supports, referrals to special education, that decisions are made daily on behalf of kids. I think there's ways to tie in the district's portrait of a learner towards the mission and vision statement and create, piggyback on existing data sets to help inform how our kids are learning and progressing through our system.
Thank you. Missy Morgan.
Yeah, this is something I addressed in Minnetonka Public Schools and when I worked for Minneapolis Public Schools. Something that we focused on was closing the achievement gap, but then also working to do what we could to engage in collecting those snapshots of which everyone else is speaking, right? A standardized test shows that student in that moment. Did they get enough sleep? Are they experiencing homelessness? Did they have food that morning? It's not actually a reflection of what a child is capable of. So what I did is I developed a PLC based on belonging where every single student in the building identified an adult that they felt safe with. We met with the students regularly. After we finished that with the PLC, our test scores and our school attendance actually went up because the kids felt like they belonged. You want to address test scores, you make sure those kids feel safe walking into the building. You make sure they know they belong. You make sure they know that they are cared about. That is how we close the achievement gap. That is how we engage families and students. We give them resources and we help them know that they're part of our community.
Thank you. Shanna Kelly.
Yes, I think we need to engage families more. There's a new curriculum night this Thursday at the elementary schools where they will share information about the curriculum. You get to go see the teachers. And so I think it's important for families to be more involved, and we need more conferences. And I know the report cards were a huge topic a couple of years ago. Parents wanted to see more data on how their families were doing, their students were doing in those particular subjects.
Thank you. Susie Kaufman.
Thank you. Yes, a test is a point in time, and it shows a student's performance in that time, but that data is really important. It does show other families and people who may opt into our district or may opt out of our district, what a general trend is. And so I certainly support alternative methods for assessing student progress. I taught students with learning disabilities, many of whom are brilliant and would not do well on a standardized test. So I think there are two things that can be true about standardized tests. They are really important, and they certainly don't measure everything for all children. I do think as we are communicating the importance of these testing days to our children and our families, we are able to capture more students, but I also think we have to address the fact that communication is a big problem. We have a lot of immigrant families, people who don't even who don't speak English. We don't always have translators. We also have parents who can't log into PowerSchool at the secondary level, and they maybe cannot monitor their students' progress. So I think there's a lot of different ways that we can address communication and help with families' buy-in on this.
Thank you. Deb Deutsch.
Well, I understand that with the MCA test, is MCA, the acronym, is that you can opt out and you get an automatic 0. So of course that's going to bring scores way down, and maybe there's 50% of St. Louis Park students, and I don't know about elementary school, but middle school and high school, who opt out. So of course our scores are very low compared to other districts. That's number one. I would do a much better job as a school board member to get the information out to parents. You can do it in different languages, that the necessity to take these tests And even if they don't speak the language, maybe that will hurt them on the reading, but it shouldn't hurt them on the math. And I think that will be information for the teachers and for the families and for the student, and it doesn't hurt them in any way taking these tests, as I understand. It doesn't go against them academically.
Thank you. And you get to answer our next question first. Please discuss your knowledge of special education in St. Louis Park schools and what changes, if any, would you suggest for those programs?
Well, I have a daughter who is a speech language therapist in St. Louis Park, and she works a lot with special ed. And I didn't mention that I was a paraprofessional in all of the St. Louis Park schools for 8 years, and I worked in special ed, and they were wonderful. The staff was just wonderful, and they did a terrific job with these kids. What is so costly, though, is when you transfer them. Some of them are so difficult, their behaviors or cognitively, that they're transferred to a cobbled out District 287, and that is a tremendous expense to our district. And to see if we can keep those students, and I think St. Louis Park is trying to keep those students within the St. Louis Park district. And that is it's wonderful what they have done for these students. And I see some of them working at Byerly's now, that ones that I saw earlier.
Thank you.
8 years ago.
Thank you. Missy Morgan, please.
Yes, when I have worked in other school districts, something that was so important when working to support my case managers, whether it was in their IEP meetings or their students who were on their different caseloads, was ensuring that they were appropriately staffed. I know appropriate staffing is something most school districts face, especially when it comes to special education, right? Having those support systems in place for those students and for those teachers. So really strengthening our special education programs by ensuring that we're supporting our teachers when we're showing up in SST to discuss student interventions and things that we need, whether it's from NTSS, how we have these Tier 1, Tier 2 interventions. What kind of supports does the school have in place to ensure these kids whose brains learn differently have what they need to do so? So also ensuring when they're in the mainstream classrooms, our mainstream teachers have the tools they need to support these kids exactly where they're at with what they need, even if there is a learning differentiation. Thank you.
Thank you. Susie Kaufman.
Thank you. I think what the reality that we have to face is a lot of our students with learning differences are not getting the services that they need in our schools right now. And I think that is no fault of the teachers. I know people are trying really hard. I was talking to a teacher the other day who's been in our district for 20 years, and she's still working 12-hour days trying to make sure that she has appropriate instruction for everyone in her classroom. So we have ended intervention by removing students from the classroom, but which I understand was for equity reasons, and that's certainly very important. And now that we've given teachers so much training about how to recognize differences in equity, it's really important to ensure that these students get what they need in the classroom. Teachers need help. We need to not be cutting our paraprofessionals. We need to not be cutting the instructional assistants in the kindergartens. I know that teachers are working really hard, and so it's important that we give them the support that we can. It's also important to realize that families don't know how to advocate for their children. And so we have a lot of immigrant families who really are at a loss. They don't speak our language, and they don't know how to advocate for their children, and we need to be the voice for them.
Thank you. Patrick Baldwin.
Thank you. Everything I know about special education, I know from my mother, who is a speech clinician in South Washington County Schools. My sister also works with children with speech disabilities. Another thing I know about special education is that we rely heavily on federal funding for it. That's a concern of mine. It's a bit of an unfair burden. I don't want to call it a burden on our public schools. We have to do all the special education. A lot of the other schools aren't required to do that. And so as we see more and more kids and we're learning more about differences in learning, that we're having to do a lot more, I happen to think we're doing an okay job at it, but we want to make sure that kids are being intervened with at the right levels and that the families are buying into that and taking the seriousness and not saying, what is something wrong with my kid? I've heard of this happen with some friends too. So I'm going to learn a lot about it, and I appreciate everyone else's comments on it.
Thank you. Maida Webb.
Yeah, thank you. I agree, Patrick. I'm certainly not the expert on special education. I do know that according to the MDE report card, I think St. Louis Park, there's about 19% of St. Louis Park students who qualify for special ed services. I listened to one of those school board meetings, and Dr. Robinson shared some news that I thought was quite hopeful, that the referrals have gone down, and I think that's because of what we're doing inside the classroom at that level 1, level 2 support. I agree that this is also a funding issue, that we have to continue to make sure that we're funding these programs so every student gets what they need inside of our schools. And then I go back to the teachers. We have got to have open and authentic conversations with our teachers to see what do they need. Is it more hands in the classroom? They know the students better than anyone, so I would rely upon their expertise as well.
Thank you. Mally Turnbull.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned earlier, I've worked in the field for the last 18 years, and I am a licensed special education teacher and current administrator with a director of special education license. First and foremost, students with disabilities have the same rights and should have the same access and opportunities as their neurotypical peers. Special education has never been fully funded at the federal level or state level, and most districts are offsetting the extremely expensive costs of special education through their cost subsidies. So I encourage all of you who are here or know in other communities to go take a look at that. Really, in order to provide special ed services, students need to be identified, and really to, I think, support learners. First, it's, as Maida talked about, MTSS, having a strong child find process and ensuring students have adequate supports and resources at the early level. We need to have strong transitions between levels from elementary, middle to high school, strong center-based programs, and as one of our candidates mentioned, yes, referring students to federal setting for District 287 is incredibly expensive, and I need to stop.
Thank you. Sarah Davis, please.
Thank you. You know, as a school board, we have 3 critical roles to play: policy, budget, and then accountability for the leader of our district. And when we hired our new superintendent, it was really important that we hired someone who deeply understood special education, because we knew that this was an area that needed attention and focus. This is something I care deeply about. I spent 15 years representing children, and many of whom had special education needs. So this is a highly regulated area. My background as a lawyer has been very helpful to me as we've engaged in these conversations. The lack of sufficient funding is really at the bottom of all of this, right? So the federal government does not fully fund the requirements, but they are federal requirements that we have to put in place. So the money has to come out of our general fund and our budget. But we are doing things, right? So we have implemented MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support. And one of the things we can do is choose to direct our funding towards places where we can support special education students. And I would point to the Aquila project as the elementary school with the highest level of education, special education needs, where we did that work. Thank you.
Thank you. Shanna Kelly.
I think we need to reach out more to families of young children, because early intervention is very important. There's not enough staff or paraprofessionals in the elementary, and I know many parents that they feel like their voices aren't being heard, so they're moving to other districts, just specifically because of the special education.
Thank you. And you'll be first for our next question, and that is, what do you believe the role of the school board is in setting technology policy in the schools? And do you suggest any changes to policies around personal device use, such as phones, Chromebooks, iPads, and the like? And that's for Shanna.
I think it's important to still have the technology. I know they are using it daily, but I feel like there should be limits to how much they are using. And I don't think they should have their phones in the classroom. Social media has been very huge. There's online bullying. It's just not right, especially in the elementary and middle school levels. Sure. I said that I think it's the social media There's a lot of online bullying. I think the phones should not be, and even the smartwatches in schools are way too much of a distraction.
Thank you. Missy Morgan.
Yeah. Having worked for Minnetonka Public Schools, we actually incorporated technology intentionally into our curriculum and into our schools to prepare our students to be the best possible contributors to society that they could be. Part of that was teaching them how to set boundaries and how to set expectations as the adults in the classroom and how to appropriately use technology and be able to still access their learning. Does that make sense? And so what we did with students is things that weren't allowed were smartwatches. However, they were allowed to have their phones off and in their backpack should they ever need it. As you know, sometimes there are emergent situations in which students may want to reach out to their parents. What was key to leveraging technology within a school effectively was ensuring we as administrators, I was on the administration team, and our teachers were being consistent with our policies of appropriate use of technology within the learning setting, in and out of school. I often told parents social media was something that we couldn't moderate, so it would be up to the parents to kind of determine that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mally Turnbull.
Yeah, I think the board has a critical role in continuing technology policies and ensuring oversight of how that's being implemented, but that's also a partnership with various stakeholders in the community and then within the district. I support the adoption of cell phone-free schools, which I've seen implemented for the past year at the secondary level at the schools that I support. But I think a big piece of this really is also the leveraging and the partnership with families. I mean, you'd be surprised how many kids say every day, like, I need to text my mom to let them know what's going on, or vice versa. Parents are texting kids throughout the day. I have parents who check in with their kids throughout the day to see, did they go to class? We have elementary age kids coming to school and telling their teachers. And it's for staff too. Like, probably everybody has a cell phone now, and they're not going anywhere. And so it's using this technology to our advantage, having set times where students can access that. If there's a need to communicate during the day, particularly for younger learners, then we set those times, or we direct families to the office, the nurse, or a designated time when the teacher is available to speak.
Thank you. Sarah Davis.
The school board has a critical role to play in policy. That is one of our 3 critical areas. And, from my perspective, as it relates to technology policies, and particularly as it relates to personal devices, we need to be in a position where we're listening to staff, students, and families, and balancing the need for access for safety reasons, which we've talked about a little bit here, but also the really detrimental impact that we know that personal technology devices have on the learning environment, right? And there's tons of data and research out there about the negative impact of exposure to social media on personal devices, and we want to make sure that's not happening in our schools. And so, I support an approach that limits access so that we're not impacting learning, but allows students to have them available as needed to be able to, in safety circumstances, to be able to communicate with their family members. As a school board member, I have supported making sure that we're listening to our building administrators, to our staff in the buildings, to make sure that our policy aligns with what they need.
Thank you. Maida Webb.
Yeah, thank you. This is where I'll get in trouble with my children again, but I believe very strongly that that the school board can make policies. Minnesota legislation has required schools to have a technology policy. When the middle school got rid of cell phones during the day, they've seen a decrease in behavioral issues, more engagement of students in the hallways and in the lunchroom. And I believe that when we talk about mental health, I believe that just promotes good mental health. At a high school level, I'm also on board for saying that we do not have cell phones in the classroom. I know that is the current policy. I don't know how well it is enforced. And so I would say a bell-to-bell policy where cell phones are put away, acknowledging that we're going to have workarounds if there's something that comes up that's emergent, or how do parents communicate with students. But I do believe that St. Louis Park is strong enough and creative enough in their solutions to come up with something that works for everyone.
Thank you. Susie Kaufman.
Thank you. Yeah, so as Maida said, I know we've had a lot of success in the middle school in restricting cell phone use during the day, and I hope to see that at the high school as well. I also want to talk about the Chromebooks. We are a school district where every student in 6th grade and up has access to a Chromebook, and they take it home and they have it all day. This year, the middle school limited Chromebook usage to out of the lunchroom, and that has had amazing success. My daughter and her friends are playing cards at lunch. We're harkening back to the 1950s, and I think that's great. I also think there's room for more. I think we also have to talk about how technology is used in the classroom. It has to be really intentional and it has to be useful. And I know that the administrators and the teachers are working really hard at that. But I think we have to reiterate that when students finish an assigned task, it's not just time to open their Chromebooks and then play online. I know my daughter, much to her dismay, noted that the middle school has banned Spotify and YouTube now. But I know she spent a lot of time on those last year because when class instruction ended, she didn't read a book. She played on her computer. So I think there is a lot of room for us to set high standards at the school board level.
Thank you. Deb Deutsch.
Thank you. I was more focused on cell phone use. I did speak to Superintendent Hines, and she told me in the middle school that they banned cell phones, and like someone mentioned, behaviors went way down. But in the high school, it hasn't been banned. They've cut Wi-Fi, but I didn't think to ask, well, what about cellular data? And what about AirPods? And what about, and I'm thinking iPads, and I don't know, personal computers, all these things. It's too hard for the teachers to be watching all of the uses of this technology. But certainly phones, I think, should be banned completely. I don't see why it's a necessity for a student to have to contact his or her parent when there's phones in every classroom. The teacher has his phone. You can go to the office to make a call. So I think it's just a huge distraction, and the social media has
Thank
really
you.
messed kids up. Thank
Patrick
you.
Baldwin, please.
I'm glad to hear all this. I actually think the board can play two roles here, because as a general rule, I think we should minimize technology use in schools. Obviously we could save a little budget by doing a little less with technology. But I really want to use our policy lever here. Obviously I support cell phones away all day, although that's easy for us to say. We're not the teachers who actually have to enforce it. I've heard some teachers say, kids 9th to 10th grade, yeah, away all day, but maybe 11th and 12th graders, they're learning how to not do what I want to do, which is like be on my phone all the time. And I'm in tech, but I think I would love to see us do a policy about appropriate AI use, again, as little as possible. I know some of us want to use it to make our jobs a little easier, but you hear stories about kids using ChatGPT to write essays, which should be against the current honor code in academic honesty. People will say, oh, they have to learn how to use it, but they'll learn how to use it. My kids know how to use technology. Thank you.
Thank you. First to answer this next question is Mally Turnbull. And our question is, how can we strengthen our middle school offerings to prepare students for the rigor of high school, going from no advanced placement or AP honors classes in middle school to AP for all and other AP offerings at high school seems disconnected to the questioner. Your perspective.
Can you just repeat the question? I want to make sure I process it correctly.
I'll do my best. How can we strengthen our middle school offerings to prepare students for the rigor of high school, going from no advanced placement or AP honors in the middle school to AP for all and other offerings, AP offerings in the high school seems disconnected. What is your perspective?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. You have a little bit more autonomy and flexibility at the high school with your elective offerings. Also, the high schools tend to be a little bit bigger, so you have a little bit more playability with your licensure and your staffing. I think my question is looking back at what are the concerns with the middle school offering right now by doing an audit or review of the existing course guide. Are there ways to offer more advanced levels of different courses as electives or as requirements for students? The district has IB in various buildings throughout the district. That is a way for students to access more advanced learning and different modalities of learning. And I think it's just ensuring that we're offering high standards and expectations in all of our existing classes.
Thank you. Deb Deutsch.
Well, I think on the junior high level, when they enter high school, they don't ramp up right away to taking advanced placement courses, so they can feel their way around in the middle school is 6th, 7th, 8th. So in 9th grade, they can feel, what the temperature is in the room, and are they ready for the next step up? And some are, and they should be available to them. And I think the junior high has prepared them to do just that. My girls took AP classes, and they didn't do great, but they didn't do poorly either. I mean, so give them a chance. You don't know until you do it how you'll do. So thank you.
Thank you. Susie Kaufman.
Thank you. I'm going to use this opportunity to give a shout out to the middle school, because I think the middle school is doing great right now. I think it's one of our strongest schools in St. Louis Park. I know that the principal is really working to increase academic rigor at every level. I do think they continue to try to have mindful homework and to try to prepare 8th graders for what they're going to face in 9th grade. I do have concerns about having AP for all students in 9th grade. I understand absolutely the meaning behind it and the idea that you want to expose children to different opportunities, but I worry that if they are not really prepared, that this will cause them to lose faith in themselves and to feel like they are not capable of doing more, and this is what we want. So I think, again, we need to really meet students where they are and differentiate instruction to students at every level in our schools. And also, again, lean into what our teachers are saying. They are experts in their fields, and we need to know how to best support them in this. But again, outcomes for all students is what we should be focused on. And I think the middle school is doing great.
Thank you. Maida Webb.
Yeah, thank you. I think we're lucky that we live in a district that has IB education, because I think some of those IB courses that our students take at a middle school level do prepare them to be real-world thinkers. I do not, however, think that replaces the need for some advanced and enriched learning at a middle school level. I do think that there's a social and emotional component for some students who need just a little bit more that they might not get in a traditional classroom, and I think it's a big ask to put it on teachers to be able to differentiate the learning. So I would like to open the conversation again to look at advanced educational opportunities for students at the middle school to bridge that gap for when they get into the high school.
Thank you. Shanna Kelly, please.
Yes, so I don't have experience with the middle school yet. I do know that they are moving for both middle school and high school, to a block schedule. So I'm not sure how that looks for the class offerings, but I do think they should try to align the middle school and high school.
Thank you. Sarah Davis.
Thank you. I think it's critically important that we make sure that our students have the scaffolding and the support they need to be successful through all levels. So this is something that we have done at St. Louis Park. We've increased access to advanced courses at the middle school and the high school. And we've done strategic alignment for 6-12 over the last 5 years. So we have pathways of courses starting from 6th grade that are designed to prepare students for those college level classes that they'll have access to at the high school. And this is driven by our teachers, right? So we had the social studies design team that created this pathway for all 9th grade students to be enrolled in AP Human Geography. The teachers are prepared to provide a rigorous experience and support all students achieving that. And the social studies coordinator, see, this is coordinated across the district, has worked with middle school teachers to align their standards and curriculum to support the new state standards, which supports this new AP course, right? And so this type of alignment is what's critical. And although we don't set those curriculum, we are responsible for accountability to our district leaders. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick Baldwin.
Yeah, so my experience with this as a parent is similar to what we've been saying here. At the middle school, my daughter worked really, really hard in 8th grade, hard to the point where she told me, I was just telling one of her teachers this, she went into 9th grade and said, gosh, I think I had to work harder in 8th grade. So I don't quite understand this idea that, middle school offerings aren't strong. Because, what we're trying to do is make sure that every kid, no matter where they come from or where they start from, has that opportunity to excel once they get to high school. We don't know when they're going to take off academically. So I think, starting kids off with, too many options that they see as maybe too advanced for them can be a little confusing. I support these curriculum changes and measuring, obviously, I like what I heard from the administration about it in my brief meetings, so I'll listen the rest of the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Missy Morgan.
Yeah, something that we did in Minnetonka at our middle school was implement a block schedule. And when we were doing this, we were working with our teachers to do so. The idea wasn't just to offer advanced courses to students who may want to access them, but to offer a large amount of courses for students from all different levels of learning in which they could get more engagement with their learning, right? If we're excited to go to a class, we're excited to go to a school. So what we did is we met with our teachers, we began to roll out the block schedule by asking them what it is that they'd be passionate to offer. And we got some really cool courses out of that. Obviously, we worked very closely with their union as we wanted to honor their contracts moving to a block schedule. But this allowed us to offer a wide array of courses that also mirrored our immersion programs that we were running at the time, Chinese immersion and Spanish immersion. And our families really, really enjoyed the option to have different choices, and it really enriched our curriculum. So that's something that was helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. And you get our next question first. Not all students will go to college. How do we best prepare all students for the post-secondary options that they would choose and for their future in the workforce?
Yes, absolutely. So I often would get students in my office going, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, Miss Missy. I'm like, you're 11. I still don't know what I'm doing with my life either. But something I always encourage students is this. The number one thing that matters in your life is your legacy. Your legacy is how you make other people feel no matter where you're at in the room. That's going to have a rippling effect for generations. So when students are going, what do I do with my life? What am I interested in? I'm like, what makes you light up? College is not the end-all be-all for something in life that you may want to do with your future that lights you up. Trade schools are awesome. Or you may want to go and be a fitness instructor. Or you may want to go and be a nanny. Or you may want to go and do whatever it is within your community, a business owner. But with schools, with my kids, when they would come in freaking out at 11, what am I going to do? I would say just focus on what lights you up in life. You follow that path, you're going to end up where eventually you want and need to be. Because where you invest your passion, that's where you're going to make the most impact. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Davis.
Thank you. So I think it's really, again, important to recognize that the purview of the school board is really on policy, budget, and accountability for our leaders. And in this context, it's really about making sure that our budget priorities align with making sure that with our mission, quite frankly, which our mission is about making sure that all students can live their brilliance, right? And recognizing that brilliance. And that doesn't necessarily mean college for everybody. Yep. So we have opportunities that we have supported, that I support in terms of certification programs, right? CNA, nursing type programs, making sure that every single student has access to programs that are of interest to them, that we're staying up on what is important in their lives. This comes back to, as a school board member, listening to students and families and staff about what are the resources that they need that we can put in place to make sure that they can access what they want for their future. Thank you.
Thank you. Shanna Kelly.
Yes, I like how the high school has a nursing assistant program so they can get certified without having to go to school. They can go right into the community before they even graduate, and this ultimately gives back to the community.
Thank you. Susie Kaufman.
Thank you. I think that this is one of the selling points of our district, that there are so many opportunities at the high school to pursue different paths. And I think this goes back also to our communication, and that not everybody knows. This is something we should be bragging about. This is great. And I think not everybody knows about the CNA program, the nursing program. I don't think everybody knows that you can take extra classes and earn an associate's degree. And so I think there are so many options, and it's really incumbent upon us to improve our communication and transparency and outreach to the entire community so that every student knows that they can choose whatever path that's open to them. You know, every path is open to them, and they can choose what works for them in order to be a successful citizen upon graduation.
Thank you. Patrick Baldwin.
Yeah, this is really important. Not all students go to college. You know, when was in high school, I thought, I don't know, there were like 5 jobs you could be. You could be like a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever. But now there's so many options, and this is the strength of this community. You know, and frankly, one of the reasons we moved here is the diversity of the community. There are so many options available to kids these days that they can see living in their school districts. So I think it's a strength that we have. You know, as I understand, we're doing cool things with internships. But the strategic plan of our district and all the things that we're trying to do, I think, help our kids become critical thinkers in a democracy. And if they can be that, they can be a lot of things in their lives. So I think we're on the right path with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Deb Deutsch.
I would partner with community and bring community into the school to show students all the diverse opportunities that there are. I remember when I was a para professional, they offered, I don't know if they still offer, photography. Wouldn't it be nice if someone from a community member came in and would take a few students under his or her wing and go outside, go to the Westwood Nature Center on a Sunday or a Saturday, and let's shoot some pictures, some photos, and see how we do. And actually teach them something that they didn't get in the classroom. And that's why I feel it's so important to continue to have art and music in the schools, and all what usually gets cut, because not every student wants academics. They're very extremely creative, and give them the opportunities to show that creativity. And also, again, bring
Thank you.
community members in. Thank you.
Manley Turnbull, please.
Thank you. This really makes me think of the mission, vision, and core values of the district. Like, look, we live in a very divisive and interesting world, we'll say right now. And regardless of what one thinks, believes, and values, we live in a country where people have the rights to have their own values and beliefs. And the world is dynamic, it's diverse, it's complicated. And something that our community has embraced is diversity. And whether one goes, whatever they decide to do after high school, students are going to be better prepared coming through St. Louis Park because of the diversity and the exposure to people from various different backgrounds and experiences. We also want to ensure that we have a rigorous course offering with IB, AP options, including PSEO, career and tech ed for our students. And I think we need to also consider the marketing of St. Louis Park. Because of the size of our high school, students are going to have more opportunities and exposure. You're going to have the opportunities to be in a play, on the football team, or participate in the club that you might not at a suburban high school of 4,000 students.
Thank you. Maida Webb.
Thank you. I think what we could do as a school board is continue to support our career and college readiness department that's already there, as well as make sure that we're continuing to engage our community. I know that there is a career board at the high school, and I think that we also have a little bit of untapped possibility with our 55+ community who attend Lennox, and they also have a rich background. So what are we doing to not only partner with communities to show that there might be multiple paths after high school that doesn't have to involve college, and using our community to do that. I think the other thing is we have to be sensitive to the fact that we have a lot of immigrant families, and so some of it comes down to education and sharing with families that there are multiple pathways after high school. It does not have to include college, and there's a lot of opportunity.
Thank you. Say, Deb, how about if we sneak in one more question, but let's go 45 seconds? We'll do our best. Okay. Maida, you are the first one for this question. A critical part of leadership is putting in the work and being present. This includes both the public meetings, such as this, as well as the less public everyday work. Please give a specific example of how you have shown up as a leader in this way.
Well, I think my introduction spoke to that. I show up in any way that I can ever. It gets harder as your children get older and they're in the middle school and high school and there's fewer opportunities. But I would say I've volunteered my way through my children's time here in St. Louis Park schools. And regardless if I'm voted to the board or not, I plan to continue to do that. So I do believe engagement is incredibly powerful. I think that it helps us to rebuild trust that's definitely needed, and I think that happens by showing up.
Thank you. Patrick Baldwin.
45 seconds. Showing up, taking on extra things. This is a hard part of life. I'm panicking right now. I'm thinking about a time last week when my son's Little League team, there was only one adult coaching both teams. So I said, I'll do it. That's what you do. You find capacity within yourself and you do more than you thought you could do. You have little kids, you think you don't have time. You got to preserve yourself. You got to preserve time for your family. As my kids have gotten older, I've realized I can do a lot more. So that's one reason I want to run for school board. I can do this. Thanks.
Thank you. Melly Turnbull.
It makes me think of a tenet of the district, which is trust in community. And I mean, I think we're all probably strong advocates that the board needs to be strong communicators and collaborators, and we embrace transparency. I think a core tenet of this is beyond the requirements is just making yourself available to listen and learn, whether that's getting an email from a parent, actually taking the time to respond, or asking them to sit down and meet you at Caribou, or call them up on the phone. And I mean, everybody gets so many emails now, and it can get lost in the noise of the day-to-day hecticness. But something that I've enjoyed about like meeting other candidates in this race so far is people are interested, and people will sit down and listen. And if you ask somebody for help in life, I think there's a lot of people out there who are willing to help.
Thank you. Deb Deutsch.
Well, I don't know if anyone noticed, but I'm a lot older than anyone else on this. And I really threw myself into uncharted waters when I embarked on this adventure, I will call it. And that's part of showing leadership, that I didn't have any mentor. I just did it, jumped right in, and I'm learning as I go. And that's how I would learn, be on the school board, because and this has been a wonderful opportunity for me, and I've enjoyed it, and really kudos to all of you here on the panel. So thank you.
Thank you. Missy Morgan.
Yeah. There was a time when I was mentoring an at-risk youth whose family was heavily involved in gangs within the city, and this child actually happened to go to St. Louis Park High School. And this is actually what inspired us to move to St. Louis Park and to buy our house and become residents here, is I saw that high school step up and invest in this child. I don't want to cry, but she was able to graduate and access her education due to this district and how they meet kids and families where they're at. So a way that I've shown up in the community is by taking kids and families under my wing that need that support and ensure they can access their education. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Davis, please.
Thank you. As a current school board member, this is a big part of what I'm doing every single day. You may see me at the meetings, and I'm proud of the work that I do at those meetings and the preparation and the questions. But when I'm not at the meetings, I'm meeting with our school staff, with families, with students. I'm chairing our policy committee, which to me means engaging with the people who are most impacted by the policies, going out to the schools. I am a liaison to to different schools. So I've served as the board liaison to the middle school, to Aquila, to PSI. And so I have little kids. I can't leave them at home. I have an amazing wife who will often watch them, but I bring them along with me. It's a family affair, and this is the work, right? That's what I care about. Thank you.
Thank you. Shanna Kelly, please.
Yes, I believe in showing up to every community event, every PTO meeting. I think just being willing to volunteer. Somebody can't do the registers at the Scholastic Book Fair. I showed up to help. Just things like that.
Thank you. Susie Kaufman.
Thank you. So my husband and I moved to St. Louis Park from New York about 10 years ago, and we didn't know anybody here. And so we kind of jumped in with 2 feet, and that is really why I'm here today. So I'm really so grateful for this community, and I'm so happy to be a part of it. I do a lot of things at my kids' schools. I just finished 2 years of being the head of Moms Demand Action, which is a full-time volunteer job. And so I'm ready for something new. And I think it's just really important for those of us who have a voice to be a voice for people who don't have that voice. And so I'm really happy to be here and be a voice for anyone. And so I'm happy to hear from people. I'm happy to talk to you. I think people want to be heard, and I'm happy to give my time for that.
Thank you. So now our candidates will each get up to 1 minute for their closing statement, and we will begin with Susie Kaufman.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, again, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be here tonight and to share my history, my story, my priorities with everybody here. So the basic things I am focusing on in my campaign are really academic outcomes. I think we need to meet every child where they are and be able to meet learning needs for students who need extra help and students who need extra challenges, people who are ready for more. I think it would be great if we could improve communication at every level in our district. I think there's so much great stuff to share, and I think it's really important that we access that information. We allow everybody to be able to access that information. I'm also incredibly passionate about school safety. That obviously goes beyond just guns, but also ensuring that every child can feel safe in their identity in their school. And that means every child feeling like they can show up regardless of their religion, their sexual orientation, and just feel really safe and that they can be their authentic selves in every single class in our schools. I welcome any conversation after or, at another time. Thank you.
Thank you. Shanna Kelly, please.
Yes, I just want to thank everyone for being here. I hope I can bring something new and unique to the school board. I have children in special education, and I'm hoping to be an advocate for those students.
Thank you very much. Missy Morgan.
Yeah. My entire career, I've focused on building safe communities and programs in which people feel they can belong and thrive and access absolutely everything that they need. From the classroom to state and county programs to when I'm talking to the bench about our court policies on how we can make them more person-centered and equitable for everybody that we are interfacing with. Holding people's needs and who they are at the heart is what's most important. And in the school, it's belonging for every student and it's support for every single teacher that we are privileged with to have within our building. And if I were part of the school board, I would make sure that that was a focus of everything that we do. We keep it student-centered. We keep it teacher-centered. We ensure that we're making choices that's going to draw our community in and know that they're welcome to come exactly as they are. Thank you.
Thank you. Mally Turnbow, please.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to start and say, I think everybody here is great, and everybody has unique gifts and offerings that they are bringing to the board. And my question to you, the voters and the community, is what is important to be represented on the board right now? If we support the mission and vision, what I do know is you want a strong and cohesive board, and that is board members tackling challenging questions, challenging problems, and being critical and creative thinkers to solutions through the enaction of policy and support with district employees. If you want that, I would ask which candidate can offer that. And we're each going to bring something different. What I've shared earlier is I have a unique perspective that I'm a current educator. I work for a neighboring school district. So I bring the perspective of being a current educator, a teacher, administrator, and a member of the community. And if you think that is going to be a value add to our board working together on behalf of our students and families, then please consider me.
Thank you. Deb Deutsch, please.
The school bell the education doesn't start with the school bell and end with the school bell. It's 7 days a week. It's after school. It's on the weekends. And we need to build community with the families that send their children to St. Louis Park schools and community members. And then we'll have a more comprehensive learning environment for all. I'm most interested in prioritized student outcomes. And the thing that I'm most focused on, I must say, is poor reading scores in the early years. And we are now shifting, the state has shifted to a new reading program. I'm very optimistic that it will work out much better and that we give money and resources to that so that because once a child doesn't know how to read in kindergarten, it gets harder and harder and harder as they go up. And I have seen students anecdotally who graduate who don't know how to read or read on a very low level. And so that's what would be my priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick Baldwin, please.
Yeah, I want to start with thanking the League of Women Voters again for this opportunity. But I also wanted to thank all of my fellow candidates. I wanted to say that earlier. I'm really heartened tonight. I've heard something good from everyone. So, we should congratulate ourselves. This is a hard and scary time to be running for office. I think local democracy can be a a bit of a refuge for us when we think the world has gotten maybe a little wild. We have a chance as a board to project stability and let people know that good public schools are here to stay. Being calm can be a form of resistance. That said, if you have any questions about anything tonight, reach out to me. I'll spend time with you. Ask anyone. I hope all of you will consider giving me one of your 3 votes. I promise I will make calm, well-informed decisions, and I think our best days are ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Maida Webb, please.
Thank you. We have the benefit of just having gone through the process of choosing a new strategic plan. And in that, we've heard from over 1,000 community members that shared what they thought was going well for our schools and where there's opportunity. And I believe that my campaign directly reflects what the community has told us. We need champions and solution makers at the table who know our schools, have relationships with our staff and our community, and can step up and engage in authentic conversations that build trust. I'm that person. True impact comes from celebrating not only what we're doing right, but also being honest about where we can continue to grow. Serving this community has been deeply fulfilling to me, and I would be honored to continue that service as a member of the school board. Together, we can build a brand of St. Louis Park schools that we can all be proud of, that serve each and every one of our students. Please join me in casting your vote for Maida Webb. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Davis, please.
I also want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum and my fellow candidates for an engaging and thoughtful dialogue this evening. Our St. Louis Park community cares deeply about our schools. We have high expectations and deeply held values. We support our students, our staff, and our families, and we welcome everyone. I am with you, yes, to all of this. I'm committed to being accountable, to advancing our shared vision for our schools. I'm committed to academic excellence and equity, and I know that they are inextricably linked. I'm committed to uplifting the voices of our students, our staff, and our families in everything that we do, and I'm committed to being the courageous, strategic leader that our schools need in this critical moment. 1-minute answers are just scratching the surface. I invite you to visit my website, sarahdavisslp.com, and I'm asking for your vote on November 4th or in early voting so that I can continue to serve on our school board. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Will everyone here please join me in thanking the candidates for St. Louis Park School Board for attending the forum. Thank you. It worked out. And I want to remind everyone the views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates, not those of the League of Women Voters. Sponsorship of this forum is not an endorsement of any candidate by League of Women Voters of St. Louis Park. Now we will hear from St. Louis Park League President Shelley Colvin for our closing comments.
And the League of Women Voters of St. Louis Park would like to warmly thank you for coming tonight. And I want to also thank our online audience for viewing. We would especially like to thank our candidates for being a part of the democratic process by running for office and for being willing to serve our community. And thank you, Jackie Wells, for moderating tonight's event. Thank you again to the City of St. Louis Park and ParkTV. The League researches issues important to our members and to the health of our communities. If you're interested in finding out more about what we do and how you can also make a difference, please pick up members or talk to us about membership. Any of us with a button, name tag, please ask us. We've got a sheet that if you also have questions about membership, you can sign up and we'll get back to you. Also, you can find out more information about candidates. I think some of you or all of you have websites, but we also, the League of Women Voters has an online voters guide. It is vote411.org, VOTE411.org. And that can be very helpful at every election, including this one. It also guides you to where you're, who your candidates are, how to register to vote, all of those things. Also, links to recordings of all these candidate forums and additional voter information can be found on the League of Women Voters St. Louis Park website, our Facebook page, so feel free to access those. In-person early voting begins this Friday, September 19th, and mail-in absentee ballots may be requested by mail or online. Election Day is Tuesday, November 4th. Yes. Again, thank you for coming, and remember to vote on or before November 4th.